We cannot speak about values, although we don't need to respect values. I don't need to spend my time in Brussels.
Which does raise a lot of questions around the conditions we could see around this recovery fund, and we're just getting some arrivals now as we continue the conversation with you. Prime Minister, I want to ask you about the size of the fund. 750 billion euros slated, the mix of the loans and grants. It breaks down to 500 billion in grants, potentially 250 billion in low-cost loans. That's just some of the ideas put forward. But there's also discussion about whether this overall size should be compromised to a 600 billion euro number. What's your view on just how big this recovery fund needs to be to carry the message it has weight and to show, I guess, US cousins as well that Europe does have answers in the middle of a crisis?
The fact is, for the moment, it's that when you speak about the amount, it has to, as I said before, it has to be an answer to the crisis. And when I see how the amounts are calculated, it's not very fair, because if you look at the unemployment rates of the last 5 years, what is the impact of the crisis of unemployment rates for the last 5 years? So for me, it would be more important to see what is the impact now. If I look at my country, for example, we decided to do large-scale testing. We test over 10,000 people a day. 10,000 people a day. So because we are sure then to test a lot makes it possible to stop the spread of the virus as quick as possible. And we are able to find a third of all the positive tests through this large-scale testing. We are also testing the commuters. But this is not taken into account when you count the expenses of the crisis. So there is still some homeworks that could be done on how we calculate the expenses. And when I speak about solidarity, for example, I have to admit that I'm a bit surprised and even really unhappy about the situation that Luxembourg testing a lot makes now that we have high figures. It's normal. If we test 20 times more than Belgium or France, it is normal that we have higher figures, and that the result is now that some other countries say, ooh, they have a lot of positive tests. I think we need to see how many positives you have, divided by the number of tests that you have, and then we have a good figures. And so the problem is we speak global, but we act local very, very often. But as I said before, so for me, there are some homeworks to do still now. I took enough shirts for the next days to be able to find an agreement here in Brussels, but not to leave Brussels without an agreement, I think will be very bad, not only for Europe, but also for the markets, and will show that we, even in crisis time, we're not able to agree, and that's a problem for me of credibility also of the European Union.
Prime Minister, I'm worried about my children. I haven't got any grandchildren yet, but I'm worried about them already. Who's going to pay for all of this? The debt to GDP globally, whether it's government that we're talking about here, whether it's non-financial corporates, households, you name it as well. It's gone through the roof. The latest figures from Tim Adams' IIF is in my hand now. And in Europe and the euro area have exactly the same kind of problems, over 100% debt to GDP in aggregate now. Who's going to pay for all this?
So the fact is, you know, that we speak about own resources too. That's new. And there are a lot of topics about how the own resources could be. We speak about plastic tax. We agreed also in Paris. Remember, we gave us ambitious goals in Paris about the Paris Agreement. So if we want to fulfill also what we say and to be credible, we should also show that people who want to import products in Europe has to respect the Paris Agreements and the limits that we gave. And if not, you pay a tax. So if we want to think, because we speak about Corona, we speak about money, but we should not forget, a few months ago, nobody spoke about those themes. It was just environment. And we still have problems with our environment. So it is important to keep that in mind too. So Paris Agreement is one thing. Then there is a discussion about the digital tax. There is a discussion about CTS. So there are a lot of different points where we say that as a European Union, we want incomes, also our own resources. But on the other hand, we as state, we guarantee the other amount. So that means that, and the payment back it's a long time, it's about 30 years together, but it's a fact that we have a crisis today, and we have to react today, and not to react to this crisis now. The bill will be even bigger tomorrow. So it is better to be able to pay today something in common. It would have been easier to say that the countries are paying now directly something, and to have a pot, and not to put, as you said, this debt on the next generations. But the fact was, it was impossible to see, when you see how difficult it is to get an agreement on grants or guarantees that we give on money. How did you want to agree on giving money to give. So I think this is a good compromise. It was not easy. I also want to thank Ursula von der Leyen, Charles Michel, and also Emmanuel Macron and Angela Merkel for all the work they did. And I'm really happy to have to admit too that Angela Merkel is now sharing the European Union, because we need a strong leader, and I'm sure that she's the right person in this tricky moment.